Good afternoon and welcome to our training session that we're going to be reviewing the LabSim setup process today. I appreciate you being in attendance and of course introduce myself. I'm Stevie George, an implementation manager here at TestOut, and I've also posted my contact information as well, and I can bring this up later also if need be. First off, I want to make sure everybody's familiar with our little GoToMeeting interface. You're certainly welcome to type questions in any time. There is a questions box, so please feel free to type in questions as we're going along. I'm happy to answer those, and if by chance we have a lot of questions and I don't get to all of them during our time together here this afternoon, I will certainly be happy to respond via email afterward. So let's get right into it. Our setup process basically involves a three-step process. Setting up student accounts will be the first part of the process. Creating classes is the second part of the process. And then third, we will activate licenses. Setting up student accounts, there's two ways to do that. So you can import a group of students, which works good for larger size classes. And typically, some teachers do it with about 20, others with 30. So I've just put 30 down as kind of the break point here. Smaller classes, it's probably easier simply to set up individual accounts for the students. Now, if you are doing an import, I brought up a sample file here. We do have a file that's available to utilize, and I have posted on the screen that if you're not familiar with where the template is for this, you're welcome to contact Heidi, and I have her email posted here. But she can provide you with the link that will basically give you the information as to where you can see the template to fill out your student information. And again, the one that I have up right now is simply a sample. This again would be if you wanted to import a group of students. This is a sample file that we have created for you that you would be able to utilize. So let's go into our account. I've already logged into my instructor account. So let's go into the account and look at how to set students up. So first, you would go ahead and click on the My Students tab. And if by chance you're teaching at a school where there were students previously, you may see a list of students, or the area where the students are listed could be blank as well. But we're going to set up students. Now, if you, again, were using the template to import students, under the My Students tab, you would click on Actions, select Add Students using a CSV file, and then, of course, this will allow you to choose where the file is located to search for that. You can open that up, and then, of course, from that point, you would submit the file. It would let you know in the end how many students have been imported into how many classes, depending on if you have one or more classes. If you're setting things up individually, then under the My Students tab, instead of clicking on Actions, you would simply go ahead and click on Add. And I'm simply typing in information. Now, as far as the login goes, we highly recommend if the students at your school have an email address, please use that, because the logins have to be unique throughout the LabSim, let me spell this correctly, throughout the LabSim interface. So using an email ensures that it's consistent, and that can be copied and pasted into both the login and the student's email. Now, the student's email is optional. We do recommend that it be used because this is how students could get access to a temporary password if they did forget a password previously. And initially, you can set up the same password for the entire class. Also, another option, if you're going to be using any of our timed exams, which would be a custom exam, for instance, or our pro certification exam, you have the ability to be able to have the student have more time on these timed exams. So by clicking this box, this will allow you to set up the extra time for this particular student that wouldn't be affecting other students at all. So I could give the student time and a half if I wanted to on timed exams. Now, you're probably familiar with what's in the course material itself. So this does not apply to anything in the course because all of that is totally open for the students to repeat as much as they like. So again, this time extension would apply to custom exams and our pro certification exams. And for those that have joined us after we started, feel free to please type in messages at any time. You can. Great question. Thank you for that, Matt. You change the time extension anytime? Absolutely, you can do that too. So let me uncheck this box and show you how you would do that. I'm going to go ahead and click Done, and I have now just created an account here for Barry. That's my example today here, and now I can go up and I can search for Barry. So here is the one that the student that I just created. I can see the creation date was today. So now let's say I realize that I need to give time extension to him, which I didn't do to begin with. Well, I can simply click on his name and that same option is listed right here for the time extension. And again, you can change this, of course, to whatever you want. And then when you click the Done button, if I were to go back now and look at Barry's name, I can see, yep, the time extension now is there. And so moving forward, this would affect any test at this point. So you can do it during setup or you can do it after the fact. So thank you for that question. And feel free to, again, type in questions in our question box anytime. All right. So we talked about the setup as far as the students go. You can use a CSV file to import a list of students or go ahead and set them up individually. So that's the first step that needs to happen in the process, is that students do need to be set up initially. So going back to the process, we've just covered step one, setting up the student accounts. The next step, as you can see, is going to be creating classes. And there's a reason that we do this as far as setting up. Let me get to the reason that sorry, I'm having problems with my slideshow here today, but the reason we set up classes is to organize students into these groups so that we can do four things. You can monitor students' progress. You can review report data once they're organized in the classes and obviously started working. It allows you to schedule custom tests as well as to be able to schedule the pro certification exam. So let's look at the class organization, which will happen underneath the My Classes tab. Now, again, these first two steps, creating the student accounts and setting up classes, can be done all in one step if you're using the import functionality. So let me make that clear. That can be done in these two steps can be done in one. So in essence, what I'm doing right now is showing you how you would do each of these steps individually. So if I had a smaller class, these are the steps that I would be taking specifically. Under My Classes, I will go ahead and click the Add button. Manuel, I'll get back to your question here in just a moment. Thank you for that question as far as what is a pro exam. I'll get back to that. Thank you so much. So under the class name, you can, of course, type in whatever you want. I'm simply going to type in that this is my PC Pro class, period 2, for instance. Where it says assigned teacher, you can pick obviously yourself, or if there is another instructor that you're helping to set up classes for, then you can pick that other instructor. Where it says associated LabSim products, you would click the edit pencil. And this is where you're going to select which one of our products you're using for the class. So here I'm going to go ahead and click the box next to TestOut PC Pro, just as my sample here today. I'll press the Done button. And of course, my last step now, since I have the students in here, would be to go ahead and do the enrollment for the students at this point. This will, of course, bring up a list of the students that you've created, or maybe even past students, so keep that in mind. You can simply click the plus sign next to the boxes themselves, or you can search students' names. So I'm going to look up the Barry that I created here just a little bit ago, and I can search by his name, and now I could type in another student's name. And then when I press the Done button, it's going to save the class of students that I've created here. And then I need to click the Done button to save all the changes and to, in essence, set up this class. Again, I'll just reiterate that these first two steps would be done by the import if you are using the import feature for a larger class. And by the way, right now the system is organizing my class into an alphanumeric order. So if I do have more classes or you have other classes, I should say, that you need to set up, you're welcome to do that. Each time it will make sure that everything is organized. So here I can see my PC class obviously comes after all of these because alphabetically that's where it fits. And I have 4 students in this class that I'm using the PC Pro course to teach with. Okay, there's another question. Matthew, thank you for this question. Can you associate more than one product per class? You could associate more than one product. However, I don't typically recommend that. If you have, like, you're teaching PC Pro and maybe you have some students also taking Network Pro, unless they're the exact same students, I would highly recommend setting up 2 separate classes. One, it's going to keep the report data cleaner, make it easier for you to see. And again, you can have them separated into the respective groups. So that's what I recommend. You could, now one thing to note though, is that if you have 2 different products listed here, matter of fact, let me go back to my class here and do just that to identify what I'm referring to here. So let me go in now to the products, and I'm going to also add the network product here. So the other thing that you have to take into account is if I have 2 products listed for the one class, and it's not showing both products at the moment. That's very interesting. Let me go back here. Okay. There we go. Screen just needed to refresh. So the PC Pro is showing, the Network Pro is showing. Typically, the way the licenses are set up, they are generally set up 1 license per product, or multiple licenses, of course, per product. So I would have a license for PC Pro, and then I would have a separate license for Network Pro. Typically, the licenses are not included together. So again, another reason why I certainly would recommend to have them separated out. hope that answered your question for you. Now, I'm going to go back to this class. Now, let's say maybe I did go ahead and put both products in. I can always go back and update that. So I can remove the one and, of course, go ahead and save my class again. And I just went to the certifications tab and going back to the My School tab simply to refresh the page. On our system here, a good thing to note is that we are working on a more browser-friendly interface. But for now, the back button or the refresh will simply log you out instead of doing either of those two things. So it's always good to simply use the controls within the interface itself. All right. Now let's talk about, we did the class setup and explained why that's important. So the next step is our license activation. And this activates, of course, the courseware itself for the students. And I wanted to note up front before we even talk about this that if by chance you need any changes, maybe you've ordered 20 licenses, and in the end you're only using 18 of those licenses for your class, and then you need 2 of those licenses perhaps to be a different product because you have a couple other students that maybe want to do a networking now. So if you need any changes, have any questions about the licensing, again, Heidi would be the person to contact for that information. But this is the third step in our 1, 2, 3 step that will provide the students now with the ability to start to use their actual program. Next to the class, there's a box. And by the way, if you have multiple classes, maybe I have PC Pro taught in period 2 as well as period 5, for instance, then I could click both boxes for those classes at the same time. So if you have the same class product you're teaching for the classes, you can activate multiple classes at once. For this demo, I'm just going to do the one class here today. I'll go up to Actions, and now I want to activate the product. You will see a license that will be available. It may be listed with a year. A lot of times they like to list the school year that the license is good for, but you can see that this license is going to expire at the end of July of next year, and that's typically when the licenses will end. I have, right now it shows I have 17 activations available out of the 20 that I was originally issued. I will simply click Activate, and this is now going to activate all the students in this class. It's simply asking, am I sure that I want to do this? And I will confirm by clicking Activate. And now it's working on activating each of the students. And as soon as it's done, you can see it doesn't take long at all. I will receive the confirmation that they're activated. When I close this out, one other confirmation that you can see, and I should have, I guess, showed this to you beforehand, but if I click on the class name, it'll show me each of the students. And prior to this activation step, I would have seen a no next to each student's name. But now that I did the activation, this is confirming that everybody is set up and ready to go. Obviously, at this point, the only thing left as far as what you'd need to pass on to the students would be their login and password that you set up for them. And then they will obviously be able to get into their account. Just like when you log in, they will go to testout.com and they will go up and click Login. They will not need to click the sign up because you've already set up an account for them, whether you've done that through the import functionality or whether you've set it up individually. So students would simply need to go to the login. And everything is ready for them. Of course, you created their account. you organize them into a class, and then you've activated the license for them. So those again are a recap of the 3 steps that would need to occur. Now, Manuel, you had asked the question, what is the pro exam? And I just briefly want to touch on that here today. And keep the questions coming, by the way, too. I appreciate that. TestOut has a line of certification exams that we've been doing for about 8 years now. These are TestOut certifications, but we have one that correlates with each of the courses that we provide training for. So for instance, we've been talking about PC Pro as far as my class setup. Here is the PC Pro certification. And you notice my class that I just created is already synced up with the respective certification here. This certification is a performance-based test. And the nice thing is that this comes with the package. So there isn't any additional cost that's associated with this. As an instructor, you're welcome to take this test by clicking the Start Exam. And the students will be able to take this test, again, at no additional cost, once they are scheduled for the test. This, again, is a performance-based assessment, so this will be all in our lab interface. That's how all of the questions will appear. Now, I'm not going to go into any more detail on that because we do have another group session coming up. For those who've joined today, thank you for signing up, but we will have more group sessions coming up that are topic specific. The next one would be talking about report data. We will also have one on custom exams, as well as talking in more detail about our pro certification exam. Now next, I want to make sure that everyone is familiar with the fact that we do have additional educator resources. We have both tutorials as well as teaching aids that are available in our product. So let me go back to my instructor screen here. Now, if I go to the My Products tab, and instead of clicking on the actual course title to open up the course itself, I have availability here to be able to look at the teaching aids that are available for each of the respective courses. And I apologize, my computer's been a little slow today. While that's taking its time coming up, I am going to go up here to the Welcome, where we do have instructor resources here that will provide teaching aids as well as tutorials. So if you're interested in looking over tutorials, of course, we do have information on what I've covered today, as well as this session will be posted after we get done. Probably within the next few days, the sessions will be posted as I go through. So even if there is a session coming up that you aren't able to attend, you're certainly welcome to come back and review the recordings. And those, again, will be located here. So after today, there's no longer the opportunity to reserve time for this, but then there will be a recording that will be posted out here for each of these respective upcoming training sessions. So again, if by chance you can't make it, not a problem. Still taking time here, so I'm going to see if I can actually go into my teaching aids from here. Now, normally I don't have to go into the course itself because the course or the teaching aids button would take me directly to that course. But since I'm going this other route, I'm going to go down and look for the PC Pro option here. I simply want to point out that we do have a variety of different resources. We have instructor PowerPoints that you're welcome to download. We have some lesson plans, both in a PDF and a Word format that you can utilize. And some other options here that might, be helpful for you. These are obviously all certainly things that can be used but are not required, but certainly things that will correlate directly with the course that can be a great resource for you. All right, it looks like I have another question posted here. What do we do if a new student is coming to class? How can we add the student to the class? Okay, that's a great question. So let's go back and review that information. So let's say I have my class already set up and now I have a new student that I need to add to the class. Okay, so initially I would go back to the My Students tab if need be. If that student doesn't have an account yet, then obviously I would need to go ahead and click Add and set up that student account. So I would go ahead, I'm not going to redo this information that I did earlier, but I'd go ahead and enter the information for the student and go ahead and save that student. Now, once the student is in, I only need to activate that one student. I don't need to reactivate the entire class. So if I just want to activate one student, I can go ahead and pick that student's name and go up to Actions, and then I can activate the product. And before, we were activating the product for the entire class. Notice here now, it's saying, well, I am only going to activate this particular student. And then I will click Activate, and then it will go ahead and show me that it was activated for that specific individual. Hope that answered your question, Manuel. Is there an associated gradebook? Yeah, absolutely, there is a gradebook. Well, I'm not going to go into that today. Again, that's an upcoming topic. But underneath your classes, once you have your class created, you can see across from my class here on the far right are reports. So there's report data here that is available. And again, that's a topic for another day because we're almost out of time here today. But I want to find out if there's any additional questions. So this right now is the time to go ahead and ask any additional questions. And also, while you may be typing those in, I want to point out that if there are other questions afterward, I know sometimes people don't think about it, something they should have asked while we were in this training session. So feel free to email me. I have my email address posted, and you are welcome to email me, whether it's a question about setting up a class or any of the other functions or availability within our product. I'm happy to answer any of that. I am the kind of the both the interface and specialist as far as using the program. So you're welcome to contact me anytime. Let's see, not seeing any other questions at the moment. So I guess I'll ask, was this information today, as far as just the setup, what you needed to get underway, was this helpful for you? All right, looks like I have one yes here. Yes, the recording, thank you for asking about the recording. That will be posted again on our site, but if you're interested in actually getting a copy of the recording yourself, I can certainly send that to you as well. Again, I have my email address here posted, so if you're interested in getting that recording of today's session, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to make sure that you have access to that. Again, feel free to sign up for any of those other sessions that are upcoming. And thank you so much for attending our session today. I appreciate your attendance and all your questions that came across. And good luck in getting everything ready for your classes, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.